So going back to that, so what you're saying there, when the league has become guys of know each other better, friendly with each other. When you were playing, I would assume it's very different, and I'm wondering how that played into. You were an enforcer, 3,000 penalty minutes. I think it was 241 fights. That position, the enforcer, has kind of gone away from today's NHL. Is that part of the reason why that guys know each other more and fighting is just not as prevalent?
No, it's changed the way the game's played and how it's thought of, first of all. And, I don't really I think it's gotten better, to be honest with you. I think Gary Bettman's done an excellent job of that, of turning this game, changing the game, I guess. There's still fights in the game and things like that, but it's not as important as it was when I played. So when I played, it was really important. It was a big part of the game. You look at Gretzky; he's always had Dave Semenko, Marty McSorley. Wherever he went, he had somebody around him, because you just needed that comfort and a guy to look after stuff in the locker room, on the ice, things like that. That's not there anymore. If there's a fight on the ice, it's just out of emotion. Guys, something happened and they get after it. But when I played, you weren't buddies with the other teammates. And if your coach saw you talking to a guy on the other team or talking to a guy even before the game, they were pissed off.
Really?
And they come up and tell you and say, "What are you doing?" We don't need that, So it was just different mindset back then. All sports were like that.
Yeah.
And then it's all sports have changed.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
Did you know when you were going into a game, like, all right, this is the guy I'm going to have to fight tonight, no matter what? Like, no matter what happens, I'm going to have to fight
Pretty much.
him.
Like, there was always, every game I played, I loved it when there was nobody. I actually could relax.
Right.
Enjoy the game a little bit. But, every team we played, there's always a couple guys, and you knew you were going to get into it with it for the most part.
Would you scout them? Would you be like, all right, this guy's got a deadly left, gotta stay away from him?
The whole team did, basically. All the guys would talk about it before the game. Well, watch his left. He's got a big right hand punch. But you knew anyhow how he fought and what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. I didn't really watch tape on it at all, but I know there's guys that have done that.
Yeah.
Did you always like fighting?
I don't really know if I ever liked it that much. I just did a lot of it. Even growing up, I did a lot of it. Like, as a kid, I grew up with 15, 20 cousins around me every day, and you know what's going to happen? You're going to get in fights. And that's the way it was. So I kind of grew up, in that mindset. And, as a player, I needed to do that to play in the NHL. Otherwise, I wouldn't have played in the NHL.
So I read a story that when you were 16, you won a Toughman competition. Now, was that your coach told you to do it, or you just were like, hey, I want to fight in this Toughman competition?
No, it was pretty much him. I went to Williams Lake, BC, played junior hockey. There was a 16-year-old, and after the season, he asked me what I was going to do. I said, I'm going to go back home to my hometown with my family and stuff. He goes, well, I got this So You Think You're Tough. I'd like you to fight in it. So I said, okay, because, I just you didn't say no, or I didn't anyhow. And during the year, I was doing a lot of boxing because he had us boxing a lot and working with guys, fighters and things like that to learn how to handle yourself. And it was actually really good for me anyhow. And so how it worked, I said, well, who's going to train me? And he goes, I am. I said, oh, yeah? He says, yeah, you're going to come over every afternoon, 4 o'clock. We're going to go down in the basement. We're going to put the gloves on, and we're going to go at it for a while, and then my wife will feed you dinner, and you can go home.
That's
and
a good deal.
I'm not lying. That's what we did, and his 2 boys were watching. They're like young kids, like 7 years old or whatever. And me and the guy's name was John Van Horduck. We'd go in this basement, put the gloves on, no headgear, no mouthpieces, nothing, and spar for an hour or so.
Jesus.
And I'd go up and have dinner, and that was it.
That probably did a lot for you, though.
Yeah.
Oh, no, it definitely did. He's a big part of why I'm here today, or why I played in the NHL for sure. He groomed me as a young kid and got me to, become that kind of a player, and that's how I was going to play.
So we have a Toughman type of league that we actually own, and we have pay-per-views. It's called Rough and Rowdy. We, no joke, this week had someone drop out of a fight that was a $100,000 prize purse. Do you think you want to maybe pay-per-view, get back in there?
Not me. I'm done with that.
100,000?
No
I'll spar
no
with you.
money.
I'll spar with you in the basement. We'll get ready. You can kick my ass every day.
I'm too old now.
What if it was against another coach?
Ooh.
Like, what we'll do an age range or age bracket. We won't make you fight a 21-year-old.
Who do you think you're the toughest coach?
I don't know.
If we had to say like every coach gets in a big fight and it's almost like Royal Rumble. We throw everyone in the ring. Who survives?
Oh, I'll probably come out of there.
Yes, hell yeah. I like that confidence.
Barry Trotz seems like he'd be tough to knock out just because he's got that volcano neck.
I like that confidence. I like that confidence a lot.
Here's a good question. What's the difference between a tough guy and a dirty player?
I would say like a dirty player, somebody that, does things out there. So when I played, if somebody hits somebody from behind, he does it, on a consistent basis, uses his stick a lot, things like that. That's considered a dirty player. A tough guy is somebody that probably, if somebody wants to fight, answers the bell, steps in for his teammates, handles all that kind of stuff, that would be considered a tough guy.
I've always wondered from a coach's perspective how you handle a player on your own team that might be kind of pushing those boundaries or starting to cross those lines, because you like a certain amount of aggression. You want your guys to be tough. You want your guys to play physically. But like if he starts to cross the line, how do you deal with a player like that and kind of like try to draw him back without changing his playing style?
Well, we really, our team's not very penalized, to be honest with you. We're like one of the top least penalized teams in the league. So, and we play hard. We're probably right up there with the most physical team in the league. So we don't allow our guys to take penalties. I mean, there's no reason to. There's no reason to, hit people from behind or, use your stick wrong. You can play hard and be physical and be clean at the same time. So we really try to preach that part of the game. I don't want to be in a penalty box very often, and our guys do a pretty good job of it.
Now, is there a guy in today's game that younger you would have liked to go out there and fight?
Like somebody right now?
Yeah.
Who I would like to fight?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I don't really think about fighting, boys.
Do you ever think about like maybe if we could change the rules and like
there's always a guy on every team, every game we play that I'd probably like to grab.
Yeah, right. Or how about a coach?
I'm not going to say names.
What if we did like instead of overtime, coaches fight at center ice?
I'm not involved with the coaches at the other team, really.
Okay.
I don't really.
Do you do the stare down though? I love the stare down from hockey
bench. I don't even
bench.
look over there.
Or the yell back. Have you had a moment where you've just been screaming at the other coach?
No.
I bet
Honestly,
you I could find it. I bet you I could find one.
You couldn't find one.
I bet you. Could I find one?
I think you probably.
I don't think so. I don't even look over there.
Or like you're yelling over the glass.
It's like Twitter over there.
Yeah,
you don't even look at that
Pierre.
shit. Yeah.
Have
Fuck
to give
that.
him a towel, wipe his head off after.
You just look over and you see the other coach, and it's just a big Twitter logo, and you're like, doesn't even exist in my life.
Blinded, just see red. You mentioned earlier that there were some times that you'd be playing, and you'd usually know who you would have to fight that night, but sometimes there are teams where you could take a little break. Was there ever a guy that came up to you and tried to start a fight with you, and you knew that you would just damage him so badly that you just had to like laugh and say, "Hey, buddy, we can't do this for your own safety"?
That's a cool thing to say.
I love that when they when the soccer guy does the.
Yeah. I've had to drop the gloves with a few guys because of a situation on the ice where everybody was kind of going at it. Back in the day, called 5-on-5 line brawls, and I've grabbed, our guys grabbed me, who's not a fighter and he's not very big and stuff, and I didn't do nothing.
Right, you just look at him like, come on, man, this is not fun.
It's like a fly buzzing around.
I'm helping you. Yeah, I like that. That's a badass.
I let him off the hook.